Hi, everyone. So we want to present our project today, co-authored project on audience engagement with RT videos on YouTube. And today I present with my colleague, Dennis. So just to give you a little bit of background on RT, you also maybe heard about it as Russia Today previously. It has really big audiences, 700 million people across many countries. And it is widely known for dissemination of Kremlin strategic narratives, but also problematic content such as conspiracy theories, also Islamophobia and different content. And currently and recently, these kind of content strategies are amplified on social media and particularly YouTube platform, as we see as a central platform for RT dissemination of content because it has the same format as RT is using, such as video. And while currently most of the research is concentrated on content of RT, less is known about these audiences and also digital audiences, which we decided to concentrate on. And particularly, it is relevant recently during the such phenomenon known as infodemic. So it's the spread of both accurate and also problematic information. And people often struggle to kind of discern truth from, or like facts from a problematic content, but in its turn, it's kind of affected the creation of narratives around it. So narratives specifically about fake news, but also different conspiracy theories when people start to talk about it. And previously it was found that, for example, fake news label was used to mostly by users to delegitimize news media and accuse it of false spreading. But also, for example, in terms of fake news discourses, it was found in our research too that they are used by different users to attack the opponent or different actors using different terms such as fake news, propaganda, and hoax, for example, interchangeably. At the same time, conspiracy theories, for example, were found as a function that unite audiences against the enemy or imagined other. And in RT case, research has found that it's usually the West. But it's interesting that, for example, with coronavirus, another other comes to play, which is coronavirus. And people also are kind of called to unite against and act around it, and they start to discuss it more. So we decided to look at how actually people, what effect does it have and how people react to these two others instead of one, for example. What brought us to two research questions. So first, we wanted to look how, in general, YouTube audiences engage with RT content during the coronavirus pandemic in the first 6 months. And secondly, we wanted to zoom in into these particular narratives about problematic content and how users engage with discussing RT videos. And now I pass over to Dennis to talk about our methods.
Yeah, so some notes on our methods and data and some of the dynamics that we've encountered here. We focused on the first half of 2020, end of January till end of June. We scraped videos using Boson Dash and the YouTube data tools for the keyword coronavirus on RT's channel. In total, we scraped about 630 videos, out of which we drew a representative sample of 146 videos, which totals about 35,000 comments, comes in at about 1 million words, making this a small to medium-sized corpus. And just to give you an indication of the size of that, there would be about 20 books of average length of comments that we're looking into. To gauge some of the trends there, we used a Vader sentiment lexicon, or Vader algorithm actually, to gauge the polarity of comments and their sentiment, which assigns a score from -1 to +1 in terms of the sentiment matches that are found in the comments. This lexicon was established by previous research. We used the Orange 3 tool to do some initial data exploration, and we developed an associator toolkit, which allows us to parse, query, and generate word statistics for various levels of aggregation. I'd say a unique thing about this is that it's able to handle multiple character sets and glyphs at the same time. So even if we were to include different languages beyond English, this would enable us to do so. and we can actually focus in on characters as small as a smiley. And we also added some additional columns to the data, which were the overall video topic. And we added a column that depicted whether there's one other addressed in the video or two others addressed in the video. Just to give you an overview of the daily activity, we see on the left a wheel of activity over the week for users, aggregated for users, and the same wheel aggregated for videos. And as we can see, there are some differences in the likes, the similarities in likes and reply patterns across videos and users. What you can see is when the peaks are near the end of the axes, that means a feature is found more than average, and when the lines move to the center, that means a feature is apparent below average. And you can see that user activity simmers down if we look at the blue circle on Monday, increases during the week, and decreases on Sunday again. And for video activity, we actually see the lowest sort of active videos being posted on Wednesday. And we see various sentiment values in green being depicted, with the lowest video sentiment on the right on Saturday, and the highest user sentiment on Tuesday. I think we can go to the next one. Yeah, so about topic proportions, here we see the amount of videos and the amount of comments in our corpus and their proportions. And I think Sofya can address some of the topics being coded.
Yeah, so we did the thematic analysis of RT videos, and we identified 9 themes. So mostly they were based on the factor which region RT targeted. So this is West Asia, Middle East, and mostly they portrayed them as being in crisis, and in some cases, as for example, in the West, being ineffective on dealing with coronavirus. And the rest of the topics, which are not kind of, we couldn't identify the regions, they were mostly general. For example, there was a general videos on COVID without any specifications on the region, and also some videos dedicated to misinformation. What is also interesting, one topic was, for example, we call it Russia hero plot. So where RT was trying to present Russia as the kind of hero on this apocalyptic background and how it saved everyone. But in the end of the day, we just see on this slide that the topic Western crisis is the most kind of commented topic, but also most of the videos are concentrated in these categories, and this affects our kind of also future conclusions that we will mention today. But yeah, basically this area, we see that it's probably the most commented and also the most popular across RT videos, which is also backed by previous research that RT targets it West. I will hand it.
Yeah, so I'll probably discuss some of this. If we then sort of separate these topics out per topic, the distribution, sorry, per topic, we can see on the vertical axis the amount of comments being made on videos to a particular topic, starting with positive world news on the left, going to general COVID and Western crisis to the right. And we then see the weeks plotted on the horizontal axes, which very much coincide with the actual unfolding of the pandemic. Obviously, there were videos posted by RT on other news topics as well. But we can see that especially during the end of March, which is between week 10 and 12, that the amount of comment activity increases quite a bit for the Western crisis category. And we can also notice some gaps and islands between topics as well, and obvious peaks for some videos. I think we can go to the next one. Also, we can plot out the average sentiment values over these bars. Blue is above average sentiment, red below, and we can see that sentiment sort of decreases with time as the pandemic unfolds. And what's also interesting to note here is that although it only measures a two-directional sentiment, that it has been run after we've done the video categorization, and that the world positive news category actually has some sentiment values displayed that are above average. So it sort of hints at the utility of this for future analyses. If we go to the next slide, we'll then see that, I think the previous, I think you can just scroll back.
I don't think I can. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that the average amount of replies tends to 0 if we look at the peaks, for instance. So the more comments are being made, the less comments are being commented on, replied to, sorry. And in the next slide, we can then see the amount of comments being made under a video that's categorized as depicting 2 others. And we can see that the World Positive news category and the Russia hero story, for instance, don't address videos or don't have any comments or videos depicting 2 others, while the Western crisis category does. If we move to the next slide, we can then start looking at some of the engrams in here. And as you can see, we're greeted with a wall of text, and we wanted to find out how can we actually extract some more trends out of this.
So basically doing engram analysis, we realized like what are the words the most frequent in all the set of comments. And initially when we did this kind of preliminary analysis, we saw that a lot of conspiracy theories were prominent, such as, for example, New World Order or One World Government, but also fake news narratives such as words fake news or propaganda were also among the most mentioned across the whole data set. So we kind of dived in and manually looked at how, in what context these narratives were used. And we saw that, for example, in fake news narratives, users were mostly using it to delegitimize RT and accusing them of spreading lies or Russian propaganda. So that's why you see this kind of high numbers across the whole data set of users using these terms. But also it is good to see how different conspiracy theories, both Western that RT was using for a long time, but also new conspiracy theories emerged during this time in people's discussion. And again, the kind of one that is used was used consistently was the New World Order, which is we know from a previous research, but new discussions on 5G, for example, or Bill Gates vaccine started to be prominent too during this time. And this is probably the graphics that shows the most interesting findings that we have so far from this project is how it shows on the horizontal. I think I will give it to Dennis.
Just quickly on the horizontal axis, it's the months again from our period of scraping, and we can see the counts of every set of terms on the vertical axis with the distance between bars amounting to around 50 comments. It's difficult to count as some comments contain multiple word sets, so they're overlapping counts, but plotting them out then allows us to see which trends emerge, especially if we smooth it out over a 3-day period.
Okay, so just a few words about several trends. So you can see that, for example, a lot of conspiracy theories discussions emerged between March and April. So these are these peaks, for example, I don't know, for example, biological warfare or Bill Gates or New World Order. And this is interesting and kind of can have different explanations. First, because in this period between March and April, the kind of pandemic unfolded and World Health Organization declared coronavirus as a pandemic, and all countries started to make different kind of actions. And we can see that probably RT posted a lot about it and users reacted a lot about it. The second trend, which is interesting, that some of the conspiracy theories were discussed kind of almost in the same manner, or like during the time they were discussed almost equally. For example, Bill Gates vaccine and New World Order, you can see that the peaks repeat themselves. So I think it's really interesting in the future to see why they co-appeared in the same discussions and what are kind of the reasons behind that. Another thing which is, I think, interesting, that some conspiracy theories are discussed consistently. For example, New World Order, you see that during the whole time, people discuss it a lot, but then some, for example, even if they were introduced in the beginning, they kind of die off in the discussion quickly. So even, for example, 5G, you see that at the beginning it was discussed a lot, but then in the end, not really. And the same with the 201 event, also at the beginning discussed, and then people actually stopped talking about it. So it's really interesting. I think it ties back a lot to, for example, Axel's research on 5G conspiracy theories, because we want to know whether these discussions stem from previous discussions and previous kind of conspiracy theories, and what kind of affected. So for this, we need to look at other YouTube comments, for example, on RT. And then quickly, I think we are running off time a little bit. What we then did, we started to, like on the previous slide, we looked at the time and how people discuss it over time different conspiracy theories and fake news. But here we can see the distribution of word sets per topics that we mentioned before. So first it's topics of the videos such as Western crisis and Asian crisis, but also we split them between videos that have one other or two others. Two others, I mean West and coronavirus. So this slide is kind of our last step because it's still work in progress, and we can see that most of the comments and size and color, for example, red and the big size, it means that a lot of comments made in this particular topic, for example, Western crisis with two others, but also, for example, the words that contain propaganda, it's here. So it kind of shows us that most of the comments were made in Western crisis topic. Again, we think it is skewed a little bit because all of the videos are there, but also at the same time it gives us indication where next we can see the correlations between the topics and the word set. So for example, whether with the introduction of the second other, these word sets started to appear more, people start to discuss more conspiracy theories. So this is what we aim to find out after that. And then just quickly on our conclusions, Dennis.
Yeah, we see from the activity, there are some data signals that even though it's quite unidirectional from RT to the audience, that conspiracy theories are being discussed on a specific video topic. Whether that's a direct effect or not, we're not sure. But there is a large comment space provided under those videos wherein these conspiracy theories can be discussed. Currently, we also see a high intermixture of topics, which can be entangled further by iterating over different keyword sets. For instance, the current sets are quite small in scope, and we can then merge them together or actually pick them apart when required. And I'll pass it on to Sofya again.
So again, like we saw that, for example, fake news narratives that we were looking at specifically were kind of used to mostly criticize RT, criticize its content, and also attack other actors and institutions, which is kind of what was previously called as normalization of fake news, discourse on narratives, when people just use it to attack others and to attack other actors. And also we saw, and with the tool that Dennis developed, we saw how to track the emergence of discussions on different conspiracy theories, and we kind of could track their longevity, how long they last, and also try to kind of distribute them with topics. And this is what our next steps are gonna be. So I think this is it, and thank you for your attention.